So we know that Paul Blackburn has kind of had his role shifted a little bit, but he is expected to start on Wednesday. He had a great start against the Dodgers, and then he struggled in his last two appearances coming out of the bullpen, gave up 3 runs in Colorado, and then had 1 out in his last outing, gave up 4 runs in that outing. Danny, is this just a sign of the difficulty of making the transition from starter to reliever, or did he just have 2 off nights and there's nothing really to worry about?
I think it's a little bit of both. I wouldn't expect Blackburn to be lights out on Wednesday, but he even said it after the game. He's not used to relieving. And, he went from being on the IL, missing a really long time at the end of last year, beginning of this year. He comes back. He makes a really good spot start. He's thrust right back into the bullpen. Now he's making a start again. It's difficult, no matter how good you are, to go back and forth, especially when you're recovering from an injury. You haven't pitched in a long time. So I would chalk it up to a little bit of both. But I think he'll be fine in a fill-in role as long as they need him. And then maybe later in the year, he'll find a home in the pen and get used to it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he looks on Wednesday. Hannah, should the Mets consider calling up a pitching prospect while navigating Senga's injury, or do you think they should just stick with who they got while they're waiting for Minaya and Montas to come back?
I think not if it's purely in service of navigating the injury. If they have someone, if they really feel like the prospects are ready, that makes sense. But this is why you construct a starting rotation the way that David Stearns does, because you want to have these pieces that can be moved around. You want to have a lot of like major league experience depth. They've done kind of the same thing 2 years in a row, which is get guys with a decent amount of major league experience and then made them a little bit better, so that way they can sort of mix and match and be utilized and deployed in this way. You want the ace in Kodai Senga, obviously, for those big moments, but this is what the pitching staff is built to withstand. It's built to withstand some injury and, to rely on the depth. And it'll not always look like it has the past 3 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was doing well. And then just a couple rough days, we're going to put those behind us because the Mets have a big stretch coming up. They're set to face the Braves, who obviously aren't looking great right now. But when the Braves and Mets face off, it's always something to keep your eye on. They're followed then by a series against the Phillies, then back against the Braves. It's their first matchup with Atlanta this season. Philly has lost 6 of 7 before bouncing back with 4 straight wins. They now sit just 2.5 games behind the Mets. Danny, we'll start with the Phillies. How do you assess the Phillies right now?
They're dangerous, and they've always been dangerous. They've got a really good starting rotation led by Zach Wheeler. They can beat the hell out of you on offense. It's never fun going into Philadelphia to play them. The fans are rabid. It's a tough ballpark to pitch in. I think they're the main competition, obviously, in the NL East with the way the Braves have been playing. I'd be surprised if the Mets went ahead and ran away with it. The 5.5 game lead was nice while they had it, but they built a big cushion, so you're able to get swept and not lose your lead. But I look out for Bryce Harper and his injury. He's dealing with the same wrist injury he had last year. So I'd expect that to linger a little bit. Not sure how well he's going to perform when he comes back. So if I'm a Phillies fan, that's what I'm concerned about right now.
Hannah, you mentioned the Mets' long-term playoff odds. How important are these games for the Mets in maintaining those odds?
I mean, they're really important. We touched on the fact that the National League as a whole is really, really good. Mm-hmm. There's going to be a lot of competition for those wild card spots going into the season. There are certain divisions where you're playing for the wild card and certain divisions where you're playing for a division win. And the NL East has given us wild card teams the last couple of years, but the NL across the board has all gotten a lot better this year. So the wild card spots in some ways are the most contentious. I imagine that there will be a lot of teams in the running for those spots as we come down the stretch, and a lot of teams that are looking to add at the trade deadline to put themselves in position to contend for those wildcard spots. So this is a year where the Mets really want to win the division because they don't want to get stuck in that throng of could be 10 teams competing for 3 wildcard spots going into the final month. So I think that this is a really important stretch of games. You don't have as many games against your division rivals as you used to. Now that everybody plays everybody, it's more of a balanced schedule. So if you are in a close, hotly contested division and you really are gunning to win that division, you have to win the games against your division rival.
Yeah, let's dig a little deeper into the division. Danny, do you expect this race to come down to the wire for the division, or do you think the Mets have a chance to pull away, especially if they win most of these games this week and next week?
I think they have a chance to pull away. I wouldn't expect it. It's rarely easy in the NL East. And to kind of piggyback off what Hannah said, I mean, you definitely want to win the division. It's hard for me to envision a scenario where the Mets don't make the playoffs, but not just winning the division, but getting one of those top 2 spots, because then you have a bye into the LDS. And I can go off on a tangent here about how dumb I think the 3-game series is. You play 162, and then you get stuck in kind of a do or die spot if you lose game 1 of a 3-game series. But the Mets should be going all out to win these games. Because again, you get stuck in that wild card scenario, or if you finish with the 3rd best record, your season could be over very, very quickly. So they should be up and ready for these games.
And I feel like the Braves, although they had a really bad start, they're 31-39. They're 14 games behind the Mets. I don't think they should be overlooked because they're still the Braves. But why do you think they've struggled so much this season?
I mean, their offense just hasn't been consistent enough. They're not getting enough from their stars. They've had a couple of injuries in the rotation. Ronaldo Lopez is out for the year. And they've kind of just been snake bit a little bit. I mean, if you look at their run differential, they shouldn't be as bad as they are. So I'll believe the Braves are dead when the season's over and they're not in the playoffs. They're just too good, too much talent for me to think they're going to be this bad for much longer.
Yeah, 14 games back honestly means nothing when you're thinking about the Braves. Hannah, is it with the Mets and Phillies playing really well? Is it too late for the Braves to make a playoff push, or do they have a little? All right, we'll go back to Danny. Do they have a little OMG Met in them? Or Hannah, if you.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, we're good.
I don't know what's happening. So ask me the question, Nikki. I'd love to know.
So the Phillies and Mets are obviously playing really well. The Braves haven't been playing great, but it's still the Braves. Do they have a little OMG Met in them? Can they make that playoff push still?
Well, they have a little 2022, was it, Braves magic in them? I mean, that year, Alex Anthopoulos went out at the deadline. He added a couple of, fourth outfielders, and they went on to win the World Series without Ronald Acuna Jr. So it is never too late for the Braves. This is now 2 years in a row. So in 2023, their offense led the league in slugging, set historic home run rates, and it's a lot of the same guys. It's Austin Riley, it's Matt Olson, and they're just not slugging at the same rate. And this is now 2 years in a row that they've struggled to find that kind of pop. So it does feel like maybe these guys are getting a little bit older, whatever it is, but they have Acuna back, they have Strider back, and I would never count out the Braves. They managed to win a World Series without an MVP.
Yeah, that's correct. So the Mets and Braves begin their series tomorrow. David Peterson on the mound. That game is in Atlanta. So hopefully Mets can get back to their winning ways.